What did you fail at today? What a provocative question. And you may know the story behind it, but in case you don't, Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, would be asked this question every night at dinner while growing up from her father. What did you fail at today? So let's talk about the value, nay, the necessity of failure in your life as an actor. Everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. Okay, as of this recording, we are a week from Cyber Monday. And so if you're interested, you can take advantage of some of our Cyber Monday deals. First up is our Sam Christensen image process. If you put a $50 deposit down for one of our January 2025 workshops, we'll take $50 off your remaining balance. Now, the deposit is non-refundable, and for more information, please check the show notes below. If you're local to Atlanta, we have even more stuff that we are offering for Cyber Monday, and the best way to find out is to be a subscriber to our Monday newsletter, The Scuttlebutt. That's where we'll drop all of the 411. Again, link in the show notes below. Keep in mind, all of these deals will expire on Cyber Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, if you're watching this in late 2024 as an actor, then you're likely feeling lost. Or really any time in your career, it's very common to feel some sort of sense of no direction. And we just talked about some of these similar topics 2 weeks ago on the channel, so be sure to check out that video. And that feeling of being lost, that fear is paralyzing. You might have fear over the industry, which is largely a useless thing to dwell on. Or you might have fear over where you are in your career, or fear of starting this career, fear at failing at an acting class, failing at an audition, etc. And when we experience this fear, we tend to freeze. Now, if you're under the age of 10, you should give your tablet back to your parents, because this video is not really for you. But before you give it back, then if you're ever lost in a mall or some sort of public place like that, freezing is actually one of the best things you could do because it's easier for your parents to find you that way. However, psychologically speaking, as this relates to fear of failure, freezing is not good advice. But it's understandable because that paralysis sets in very quickly if we're not careful. Or to use less hyperbolic language, when we're at that standstill, the laws of inertia make it so hard to experience any motion forward. After all, objects at rest tend to stay at rest, according to Newton. And although he was talking about the physical world, this also applies to the world between our ears. Stick with me here on this metaphor. I want you to imagine you're playing Battleship. Wait, I'm old. Let's go with something more modern. Wordle, right? You start out with 5 empty boxes, and your task is to guess what the 5-letter word of the day is. What's the best way to succeed? Is it to just silently think of every word in the English language that you can think of that has 5 letters, except for plurals or proper names? No. You could look up the past 10, 20, or 1,000 daily Wordles to see what those words are and run some sort of statistical analysis and create a model that will predict the likelihood of today's word starting with the letter F. What do you ultimately have to do? Make a guess. Duh. A guess that, statistically speaking, will be wrong. Oh no, you're a failure. No, of course not. You're still in the game. In fact, the game doesn't even start until you fail. See, if we get trapped in a fixed mindset, which is very easy to do, then failure is suddenly not an option, right? Because that will damage our ego, our image. And so we avoid trying sometimes because of that fear of failure. But if we're in a growth mindset, something I learned all about from Joe Town at the Performer's Mindset, then we expect failure. Heck, we invite failure because failure is good information. I never learned anything from my successes. Now, as an actor, I've benefited from my successes in the form of money in my bank account, making insurance, artistic fulfillment, etc. But the times where I didn't get what I set out for in my career, especially in the first decade of my career, those times were invaluable. Just like Wordle, when I'm at the start of my acting career, or the start of an acting class, or I just got a new audition into my inbox, I need to make an effort. I need to start the game. I need to take action, however small, so that I can start to get new information back. That first move in Battleship, B5, miss. is not a failure. With each passing turn, you're getting more and more information that makes the next move, each subsequent move, smarter, more confident. So in all these games and your acting career, you need to take even the smallest of actions to move forward. And hear me on this. I hope you don't book your first audition or your second. Why? Well, think about the first time you ever played Wordle or Battleship, or have you ever been at a restaurant and there's a kid's menu and on the backside is like a maze and it's so easy you can do the maze without ever putting a crayon to the paper? You learn nothing from that. On the other hand, you go to Cracker Barrel and you get that little triangular wooden thing with the golf tees. That can take you forever to figure out. But when you do, isn't it much more satisfying than when you were just staring at that maze and were able to solve it without thinking? Failure is an asset. It allows us to recalibrate. It allows us to hone our craft. It allows us to become more self-sufficient. It has so many benefits. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about acting and failure. Just like I talked about 2 weeks ago, if you're worried about the industry overall, your career overall, that's so broad. You need to get more specific, and you need to take a specific action towards rectifying that, or else stop obsessing over things you can't control. So if you have a crappy agent, drop them, or at least start a conversation with them, or at least start looking at other agents in your market, or asking friends who are also actors what their experiences are with their agents, or getting on SAG-AFTRA's website and checking out your local market to see what the franchise agents are in your area. If you're at the start of your career, join an acting class. Too big a step? Audit an acting class. Still too big a step? Do a search online to get a list of all the acting classes in your area. Still too big? Buy a book on acting. Are you 20 years into your acting career and sort of unhappy with the stagnation that you're experiencing? Produce something. Too big? All right, well then email that producer you worked with 10 years ago to say, hey, I've been thinking about you. Want to grab some coffee? And if you're looking at a script for the first time, you got to make some choices and hope that you're going to fail at some of those choices. Because if you fail at your first attempt at the character, it gives you so much more information about what you should be doing with the character, with the scene. Intend to fail initially and see how that informs your future choices with this character, so that when you do finally tape it for the self-tape that you have to submit, you're going to be that much more confident because you've explored all the wrong choices in an effort to find what feels authentic and grounded for you. But you got to get moving. You got to fight that coefficient of static friction that keeps you in place. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. And don't dread failure. Embrace it. Hope for it. Sure, you're doing a little reverse psychology on yourself, but when you experience a different outcome than you hoped for or expected, you might start seeing the value in that a little more. So I'll end the way I started. What have you failed at today? Drop it in the comments below. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.